Doing another video today, guys. We're going to dive into a chapter I haven't touched because this chapter really is just two different points, two different sides. Everything in life, the law of polarity is a yin and a yang, a black and a white. And this chapter is the chapter ego. And I talk about this because, in Western cultures, this is not really an issue. When I was living in Mexico, this was not really an issue. When I talked to people from Africa, it's very interesting, getting deep into their philosophies and what they think about this. And that is the whole ego versus confidence. And there's a very fine line, and a lot of people, especially in, first world countries, don't really understand the difference and where you draw the line between ego and self-love. Because there's a big difference between self-love and ego. And self-love is what stimulates confidence, right? You can't be confident if you don't truly love yourself. And if you are loving some dogma mask or loving yourself for some label that you gave yourself that's not who you truly are, then you're basically loving an ego. But if you truly are confident from within, there's a big line here. There's two different, there's delusion and there's truth, right? There's a reason why religions are so passionate about the truth. And it's because truth is exactly that. It's a form of love. It correlates with the vibration of love. It comes from within. And that's the line here between truth and delusion. Because someone who has a big ego, there's no truth behind it. 100% of the time. But somebody who's very confident, there's truth behind it. 100% of the time. It's why one shatters and one prevails. So a lot of people say, oh, okay, well then how do I become confident? What is confidence? I don't support professional sports. I'm not a fan of sports. I'm not going to go into that. But I will say, it's a perfect example. When you put in the hard work with dignity, and you're not cheating, you don't have to cheat because you love yourself and you know your worth. And you put in the work, you put in the hours, you grind hard, you study hard. When I was in college, that was when I finally actually started to study instead of just come home and play video games all day. I would come home and spend hours doing my homework after I'd already spent hours. And that's why I became an honor student when I was a C and D student in high school. They won't even think about inviting me to honors. And it was when I started to grind, though, and I started to study, it built confidence. I was confident because I actually had success that I earned with dignity. I'm very confident now in my ability to go to another third world country or another country and lead an event, right? And very confident to, give a speech in front of, crowds of hundreds in a foreign country now, thousands if may be. And that's because I've done it before, and I've done it successfully. And now there was a lot of hard work and practice that went up to those speeches. And that's where the confidence built. Ego is the complete opposite. Ego says, I'm the smartest guy in the world. I don't need to really study for that test. I'm just too smart. Then the test comes around and he probably has to cheat. And guess what? Yeah, he gets an A or a B. But in the end, like I talk about in my video on cheating, he's going to be busted. And his ego is going to be shattered. Another sign of an ego, I talk about it in the Book of Life, is this childish power struggle. Right? And a lot of times what it really is it's two dogma masks. I call it ego buddies, right? They're not truly in love with each other. They're just ego buddies. They're just butting heads. And like one of my mentors said, they're just scared shitless to end the relationship. They don't truly love each other, and they're ego buddies. And this is where you got two dogma masks, right? You got a dogma mask that says I'm a Muslim, and you got a dogma mask that says I'm a Jew. That's not who you are on the inside. You're just doing everything the religion says you are, or who says you should be, not who you truly are. I had a guy from a Muslim mosque rescue me when my car broke down. He told me, I'm not helping you because I want to from within my heart, because I want to. I'm doing it because my religion tells me to. And you have two egos trying to overcome each other. There's a power struggle. But when you truly love yourself from within, and this is when you get to the big leagues, this is where you get to the billionaires and the millionaires that I've worked with, the majority of them, they truly love and understand themselves from within. That's why they drive $5,000 cars and they have a $10, $50 million house. Because they don't need to impress anybody. And they're out taking action through love. They want to give. Because when you truly understand and love yourself from within, I talk about it in my video on discovering your life purpose and loving your true self, you want to give, you want to work together, you understand that every person you meet is a 400 trillion wonder miracle, and they have different pieces they can offer. They're offering humanity and their own individuality. They're their own individual self. You are your own individual self. You both have your strengths. And together, you want to work together to make life a better place through the vibration of love. There is no power struggle. There is not two insecure people, childishly trying to overpower each other. And this is what an ego is. Quincy Adam Jones says it perfectly. An ego is an overinflated insecurity. If you really think about it, stop and think. Like Albert Einstein said, we need to stop teaching the educational system to our children of memorizing numbers. We need to teach them actually how to think. So stop and think about that. An ego is an overinflated insecurity. That's really what it is. When I was out canvassing, one of my 30 jobs that I did, my favorite mats at the door were the ones that said, leave your ego at the door. And that's exactly what being nice is. You're insecure, so you're doing everything society tells you to. And there's usually an ego right around the corner. There's usually a big gold watch or something right around the corner. And these people think they're so clever, and they're fooling somebody, and they think, they're better than everybody. There's always this power struggle. But you attract what you put out. And that's why these people never go very far. And that's why they always think they're far more powerful than they really are. You don't ever see a billionaire, or a millionaire, or a trillionaire that actually got there legitimately, having to brag, having to be cocky, having to overpower anybody. They go around walking in pants and shorts they bought at Goodwill. And this is because they're confident and they're secure. They truly understand. Understand is the key word, and love their true self. And they've put in the hard work. They've put in the hours of studying. People would be astonished by how many failures and how many lessons that millionaires and billionaires had to go to get to where they're at. How many failures they had to overcome. And this is what I talk about in the Book of Life. The ego is afraid to fail because it's insecure, right? If you're insecure, they're insecure, so they're afraid to fail. And when they do fail, their entire ego is crushed, and they most likely can never get going again. And if they do, it takes time. But when you're acting through the vibration of love, I talk about it in my other video too, you love failure. Because when you fail, guess what? You can learn, become stronger, you can become wiser, you get one step closer to your goal and making the world a better place. If you're acting through the vibration of love. And it's why the millionaires and billionaires that got there legitimately, they didn't have any problem with all the failures they had along the way. And it's not always about money either. If you study other people like Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, they were not financially wealthy, but they were some of the most powerful people alive. And they didn't get there either through not failing. But the ego is going to be shattered. And one of the quickest ways you can differentiate between, or when you encounter somebody, because I've had the privilege of working, a lot of sales and customer service jobs in my life. And you start to learn something. And this is a trick that is very obvious. If you first meet somebody, and they cannot take a joke, right? Or just right away there's a lot of tension, a lot of control, right? The boss versus the leader. These are very early signs. Someone that's very serious. Because if someone's very serious, what are they trying to do? They're trying to control the situation out of insecurity. If someone's very loose, confident, and they're laughing at themselves, they're teasing other people, that's a good sign, right? And this is what I love about Mexico and these African cultures. They're not only laughing at themselves, but they're teasing each other. A superior or an elder is making fun of himself with somebody else. Because there is no ego. There is no dogma mask that so much of first world countries have been sold more than these third world and developing countries. And these are the major differences, right? And I remember I remember one of these criminal rappers, a funny video I watched, said he went to a party with Leonardo DiCaprio and a bunch of other legitimate successful people. And he said, man, they were popping $1 million bottles right and left, champagne and wine bottles. He said, man, I barely had $100,000 in my bank. And this is the difference between delusion. And like I said, it's not always about the money, because money is one of the biggest tools used by people with an ego or insecurity to fill their insecurity. That's why they gotta walk around with big gold watches and big gold chains. You know, Dr. Dre, he walked around with a big gold chain, gold watch, you know, very big ego. But then after he discovered himself and his life purpose, who he really was, he sold beats for billions of dollars, and now he walks around in a t-shirt and jeans just like the rest of them. You know, these are the differences, guys. These are how you spot, the major ways you spot and understand the two. And I truly hope this video helps some of you guys. What do we got here? This is why I don't like sports. What do we got here?